Imagine waking up in the morning just like any other day. You sit on the edge of your bed and suddenly notice that your legs feel heavy and aren't responding as well as they used to. Getting up becomes increasingly difficult each time. You walk through the room and catch yourself feeling unsteady, as if something inside you is slowly fading away. A silent, anxious question arises in your mind. What's wrong with me? You try to explain it away by attributing it to age, convincing yourself that it happens to everyone. But deep down, a doubt creeps in. What if the reason is not just age? But what if there's something more beneath the surface, something that isn't so easy to notice? There are foods we eat every day, thinking they're healthy, but in reality they might be doing us harm. For example, fruits are often referred to as the healthiest choice, natural, grown in the soil, and packed with vitamins. However, as we age, not all fruits are equally beneficial for our bodies. What seems beneficial can sometimes work against us. Some fruits don't provide energy. Instead, they can drain it. They can accelerate muscle fatigue, impair circulation, and cause inflammation in the legs, making it harder to walk, climb stairs, or even just stand. And we're not talking about any rare or exotic fruits. Most likely, these fruits are currently sitting in your home. This video isn't meant to scare you. It will help you understand what you should really eat and what it's better to avoid. When you realize what can be harmful, you gain the opportunity to choose health and maintain your mobility and freedom of movement for many years to come. Watch this video until the end. You'll be surprised to learn which common fruit, often thought to be healthy, can actually be harmful for people over 60. But first, I'd like to ask, what city are you from and how old are you? I'm really curious to know who's watching us. We created this channel for you so that you can take care of yourself and stay informed about important things that will help you move forward, no matter what. Now let's talk about something specific. Do you know why our feet tend to let us down as we get older? It's not a coincidence. It's just the way our bodies work. As we age, we lose muscle mass, a process known as sarcopenia. At first glance, it may seem quite complicated, but in reality, it's much simpler than it appears. As we get older, we gradually lose muscle mass, particularly in our legs. Why is that area so affected? Because our legs carry our entire weight, help us stand up, walk, climb stairs, step into the shower, or simply go to the store. They are the foundation of our independence. If the muscles in our legs weaken, everything else starts to falter as well. The most insidious part of this is that the process happens unnoticed. There's no pain, no obvious warning signs. One day, you just catch yourself thinking that getting up from a chair has become harder. You want to hold on to something. Your steps are shorter and you brush it off as just getting older. But the reason isn't solely age. Yes, aging is inevitable, but the rate at which you lose strength is something you can actually change. You know it yourself. Everything we eat every day directly affects how we feel. Our diet influences the strength of our muscles, the mobility of our joints, how easily we can walk, and how well blood flows to our legs. There's a nuance here. Not all fruits are equally beneficial, especially if you're over 60 or 70. While fruits may seem fresh and natural, some can have a negative impact on your health. What's the deal? Some fruits have a very high glycemic index, which means they quickly raise blood sugar levels. This sugar isn't beneficial. On the contrary, it contributes to inflammation, fat accumulation around internal organs, and accelerates wear and tear on the body. There are also fruits that, despite their sweetness, contain acids that can cause inflammation or discomfort in your joints, precisely where you don't want it, in your knees, ankles, and muscles. Let me tell you a story. Don Alfred was 78 years old. Every morning he would go for a walk at the exact same time and make 10 laps around the park. This was his routine, his way of feeling better, his quiet joy. But one day, as he approached the porch, he suddenly felt weak in his legs. The steps seemed almost insurmountable. The next day, he could only make it part way through his usual route. A week later, he stopped leaving the house altogether. He convinced himself it was just his age. After all, this is how it was meant to be. But he didn't realize that the reason was something entirely different. His breakfast, loaded with sweet fruits, was quietly draining his energy. After all, he didn't mean any harm to himself. Of course not. He was convinced that he was taking good care of himself because everything natural is good, right? That was where his mistake lay. What we eat is certainly important, but the timing of our meals is just as crucial. It matters not only how much we eat, but also how our bodies respond to food at different stages of life, as many things change with age. For instance, fruits that are ideal for children or young athletes may not be the best choice for older adults who need to take care of their muscles, joints, and avoid inflammation. This discussion won't be about bad foods per se, but rather about tips to help you make informed choices that are truly beneficial for you, so you don't inadvertently harm your health without realizing it. This is especially true for leg mobility, as we all want to maintain a light and easy gait for as long as possible. Now I'm going to talk about 6 fruits that surprisingly can weaken the legs and affect mobility. I'm sure the last item will surprise you. Let's start with the most familiar one, the banana. We often consider it a symbol of health and energy, and it's a staple in almost every household. Older adults especially love bananas because they're soft, sweet, and convenient. However, very ripe bananas might not always be the best choice. Few people realize that when a banana becomes overly ripe and its peel is covered in black spots, the sugar content significantly increases. A banana like that can contain over 20 grams of simple sugars, which enter the bloodstream very quickly and cause a spike in insulin levels. The body responds by producing a lot of hormones to cope with this surge of glucose. If you eat such bananas regularly, every day, it can lead to inflammation, water retention, belly fat, heaviness in the legs, joint stiffness, and a constant feeling of fatigue. This is especially important for people who are inactive or have already experienced muscle weakness. Instead of being beneficial, the extra sugar becomes yet another obstacle for them. But if a person has diabetes, prediabetes, or circulation issues, a very ripe banana can be more of a trap than a healthy choice. Take the story of Rachel, for example. She is 73 years old, a widow, lives alone, and has always tried to eat healthily, as she would say. For breakfast, she always had 2 things, a cup of tea and 2 ripe bananas. She would eat one in the morning and save the other for later in the day. She was convinced that it gave her energy better than any bread or pastries. But over time, she noticed some strange changes. Her legs started swelling quickly. Climbing stairs became difficult, and it felt like someone had tied weights to her ankles. At first, she attributed everything to age or the heat and didn't even suspect that the culprit was a habit she thought was beneficial. Her body could no longer handle the amount of sugar like it used to. In the end, inflammation occurred, and it was most pronounced in the legs. Does this mean that bananas are harmful? No, it just means it's important to know moderation and pay attention to how and when we eat them. A practical option is to eat half of a banana that is not fully ripe yet. In this form, bananas contain fewer simple sugars and more resistant starch, making them beneficial for the gut and preventing sharp spikes in blood sugar levels. Adding a pinch of natural cinnamon enhances the flavor, giving it a warmer and richer taste, while also helping to regulate glucose levels. An excellent choice for breakfast. The key is not to completely eliminate foods, but to adjust them to fit your needs, as everything depends on how and how much you eat. Now let's talk about grapes, small juicy berries that often seem harmless, especially when it comes to the popular seedless varieties. In fact, grapes have a relatively high glycemic index. This means that even a small serving, like a handful of 10-15 berries, can quickly spike your blood sugar levels almost as rapidly as sugary soda or pastries. Imagine you are an elderly person. Your metabolism isn't as fast anymore. Your muscles have weakened, and you might also be dealing with diabetes or circulation issues. You probably know what happens when your blood sugar levels suddenly surge. If this happens frequently, it can start to affect the nerves, particularly in the legs and feet. This condition is known as diabetic or peripheral neuropathy. At first, you hardly notice it. There's a slight decrease in sensitivity, sometimes accompanied by tingling in the toes, or a feeling as if there's soft cotton underfoot. But over time, it gets worse. Walking becomes painful, uncomfortable, and sometimes even impossible. Let me tell you the story of Louis. He is 76 years old, lives with his wife, and has always loved fruit. Louis often proudly mentioned that he doesn't drink soda or eat sweets, but he simply can't spend an evening without grapes. For him, it was a whole ritual, turning on the TV, pouring himself a cup of coffee, and enjoying a bunch of grapes. One day, he noticed that something was off. He started to trip more often, sometimes feeling like he couldn't fully control his fingers, and his legs seemed to be going numb. Luis went to the doctor, had some tests done, and heard the diagnosis: a peripheral neuropathy, possibly related to nutritional issues. It was hard for him to believe. He thought it was all due to age, that it was just the process of getting older, and he didn't realize how much his eating habits could affect his health. It's not about blaming fruits. It's important to understand how the body changes as we age. After the age of 60 or 70, the body processes sugar differently. What used to be a harmless pleasure can now quietly undermine health. But does this mean we should completely give up grapes now? You can still eat grapes, just don't overdo it, and it's better to pair them with other foods. For example, limit yourself to no more than 6 berries at a time. If possible, eat them alongside something protein-rich or with healthy fats, like a handful of nuts, a spoonful of plain yogurt, or a piece of low-fat cheese. It's not difficult, and it has its benefits. This combination slows down the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream and helps prevent spikes that can harm the nervous system. The body doesn't need restrictions. It's important to approach everything with common sense. The third fruit on our list isn't in bunches or slices. It typically shows up in our glass. We're talking about orange juice, even if you squeezed it yourself. For years, we've been told that a glass of juice at breakfast is the key to energy and a boost of vitamins for the day. But there's an important point. When you squeeze an orange, all the valuable fiber stays in the peel and pulp. What's left in the glass, even after the fruit is juiced, is essentially concentrated liquid fructose, a hefty dose of natural sugar. Such sugar enters the body very quickly, without any barriers or balance found in whole fruits. When this sugar hits the bloodstream immediately, the liver has to take on all the burden. If you drink juices day after day and consume a lot of liquid fructose, the liver can start to struggle, leading to overload. This condition is known as fatty hepatosis, or more commonly these days, fatty liver disease. Now, why is this important for your legs? When the liver is overloaded with fat, it struggles to perform its functions effectively. It can't process nutrients and toxins properly, leading to a disrupted metabolism. This triggers a chain of problems. Inflammation increases. Circulation in the limbs worsens. Fluid begins to accumulate in the legs, and the muscles receive less oxygen. As a result, you may experience heaviness in your legs, walking becomes more difficult, nighttime cramps can occur, swelling may develop by evening, and fatigue can be felt even without significant exertion. That's exactly how it all happened for Carmen. Carmen is 72 years old. As long as she can remember, she started every morning the same way. Fresh squeezed orange juice and 2 buttered toasts. This simple breakfast energized her for the entire day. But as she got older, Carmen began to notice that she had less energy. Climbing the stairs became more difficult. Her legs ached and swelled. One day at the market, she had to sit down on a bench because she didn't have the strength to go any further. The doctor diagnosed her with moderate fatty liver disease, chronic inflammation, and early signs of muscle weakness. That's when she learned that even something that seems as healthy as orange juice can overload the metabolism. The issue wasn't just with the orange itself. The problem was that multiple oranges were being juiced into one glass. This resulted in a sweet liquid devoid of fiber and balance, essentially just a serving of sugar that was gradually harming health. What to do? It's not necessary to completely eliminate oranges from your diet, but it's worth changing your approach. Instead of drinking juice, it's better to eat half an orange whole, with the pulp and fiber that you should chew rather than sip. If you can, add a little bit of almonds or walnuts to this. Fiber slows down the absorption of sugar, while the healthy fats from nuts help keep your energy and blood sugar levels stable. So, a habit that used to be harmful becomes beneficial and supports your health. The point isn't to give up fruits, but to eat them wisely. Now that you know about the third warning, it's time to discuss the fourth fruit. Many consider it light and refreshing, almost harmless. But it's not that simple. We're talking about watermelon, sweet, juicy, and so desirable in the heat. It's hard to find someone who doesn't enjoy a slice of watermelon in the summer. Its juicy flesh and refreshing taste appeal to both adults and kids alike. However, there's a detail that often gets overlooked. Even though watermelon seems like it's mostly water, it actually contains a fair amount of natural sugars. The most important thing is how watermelon affects the body, especially in older adults. Eating it in excess can lead to some unpleasant consequences. Let's dive into why this happens. When you eat watermelon, it's usually hard to stop at just a small piece. Often, the portion ends up being quite large, and we don't even realize how much we've consumed. Along with this, the body receives a significant dose of fructose, which is quickly absorbed. Due to the low fiber content in watermelon, the sugar enters the bloodstream almost immediately, causing a sharp spike in glucose levels. But that's not all. Watermelon also has a diuretic effect, meaning it makes us run to the bathroom more frequently. It seems beneficial, as the body feels like it's being detoxed. However, if you overdo it, you can lose important minerals along with the fluids. One of these minerals is potassium, which is particularly essential for leg health. It is necessary for the proper functioning of muscles, allowing them to contract and relax, as well as for maintaining balance and strength. If potassium levels drop too low, it immediately affects your well-being. You might experience cramps, especially at night, and your muscles will feel fatigued even after a short walk. It's as if your legs have stopped obeying you. You stand up unsteadily, and when you turn, it feels like you might fall. That's exactly how John felt. He is 78 years old and lives in a hot village. During the summer, he decided to simplify his life. To avoid standing by the stove and suffering from the heat, he started eating watermelon almost every day. Sometimes he would eat half a watermelon in a day. At first, it seemed like a great idea. Easy, refreshing, quenches his thirst, and no cooking required. But a few weeks later, Peter noticed that something was wrong. One evening, while he was sweeping the yard, he felt a cramp in his thigh. The next morning, as he got out of bed, he could barely stand and had to lean against the wall. And just a week later, he suddenly tripped over flat ground near his house. After the examination, the doctor said to him, "Peter, you have a very low potassium level. Your muscles can't function properly." It's unlikely that anyone would think the issue could be with watermelon, but it's definitely possible. However, that doesn't mean you need to completely give up watermelon. The main thing is to know your limits and not overeat. If you crave watermelon, just enjoy it in moderation. It's better to avoid large portions, especially in the heat, and pay attention to your hydration. On such days, a good idea is to prepare water with lemon, cucumber, and a pinch of sea salt. This drink is great for quenching your thirst and helps replenish the minerals we lose through sweat. Remember, not everything that seems safe and easy actually is. Sometimes harm can come from things we overlook. Let's talk about mango, a tropical fruit that many people love. A ripe mango has a sweet aroma, tender flesh, and a rich flavor, almost like a real dessert. But it's precisely due to its ripeness that mango becomes not only tastier, but also sweeter. The ripest fruit contains the highest amount of sugar. When you eat a very ripe mango, your body gets a big mix of fructose, glucose, and sucrose all at once. This surge of sugar, even if it's natural, can lead to some unexpected sensations. For example, have you ever noticed that after eating mango, you sometimes feel like lying down, or you experience a slight fatigue or even heaviness in your legs? This doesn't happen for no reason. It's your body's reaction to the high sugar content in that fruit. When there's too much sugar in the blood, even if it comes from fruit, your body reacts. You may feel sleepy, your energy decreases, and your movements become slower. If this happens several times a week, these effects can accumulate. Moreover, ripe mango can exacerbate inflammation in the body. This is especially important for older adults to remember, particularly those who are already dealing with joint pain or stiffness in the mornings. Here's a real-life example. Ms. Emily is 75 years old. She has always loved mangoes, eating them for dessert, making juice, and during the season, she could eat up to 2 fruits a day. During one of our conversations, she admitted, "Lately, it's been really hard for me to go down the stairs. It feels like my knees have rusted," she said. I asked her if she had changed anything in her usual routine. She immediately replied that no, only mangoes are particularly delicious this month. That made everything clear. Her blood sugar levels had risen, and she started showing signs of inflammation. Because mangoes, while being a healthy fruit, can significantly raise blood sugar levels if they are very ripe and consumed in large quantities, especially when eaten alone and without moderation. However, there's no need to completely give up mangoes. The key is to choose the right time, method, and level of ripeness. A great alternative is green or semi-ripe mango, the type that is firm, slightly sour, and even crunchy. In many countries, this kind of mango is sliced into strips, added to salads, or eaten with salt, lime, or a touch of chili pepper. In this form, sugar has a much lower glycemic index. If you eat fruit alongside something salty or healthy fats, like avocado or nuts, your blood sugar spikes will be less drastic, and you'll maintain your energy for longer. Keep in mind that while fruits can be delicious, their effects on the body may not be immediate. Over time, this can impact your mobility. If you start experiencing pain in your knees, ankles, or hips, it's quite possible that overly ripe mangoes might be a contributing factor. Now let's move on to a fruit that seems harmless but can surprise you, the date. The same goes for other dried fruits that many people love to snack on as a healthy option. Raisins, dried figs, prunes, and apricots. These little treats, while made from real fruits, contain one important thing: a lot of sugar. There are 2 main issues with dried fruits. First of all, when fruits are dried, they lose water and become much smaller in size. A handful of raisins is about the same as 3 or 4 bunches of grapes. One date can contain more sugar than half a banana. They are so small that it's easy to eat a lot without even realizing it. However, dried fruits have a much higher glycemic index than fresh fruits, which means they raise blood sugar levels more quickly. What happens if you eat a couple of dates, hoping to recharge your energy? The body receives a quick dose of glucose. Initially, there is indeed a surge of energy, and you feel lighter and more alert. But this effect is short-lived, like a quick flash that extinguishes almost immediately. After a sharp spike, blood sugar levels drop just as quickly. In the end, you feel even more tired and worn out, and weakness sets in. Jack, who is 78 years old, has experienced this firsthand. Every morning after his coffee, he would eat 3 dates. He really enjoyed them and referred to them as his natural fuel. But over time, he noticed that his legs were starting to let him down. He felt a tremor while walking, and he began to wobble on the stairs. At first, he thought it was just a part of getting older and that his strength was fading. But when he thought about his diet, he realized that dates were causing him more harm than good. His blood sugar started to spike. He experienced digestive issues, bloating, fatigue, and even sleep problems. It turned out that an excess of dried fruits can affect this as well. When blood sugar levels rise in the afternoon, it can interfere with getting a good night's sleep. The sleep becomes shallow. There are awakenings during the night, and in the morning you feel exhausted. If you don't get enough sleep, your muscles tire out faster, your reaction time slows down, and your body is more susceptible to injuries and wear. It's important not to consider dates or other dried fruits as harmful. You just need to know when and how to eat them. The best way to enjoy them is by pairing them with foods that help mitigate the effects of sugar. For example, you could have half a date along with a walnut or an almond, add a bit of raisins to unsweetened yogurt, or toss a teaspoon of dried figs into a leafy green salad. Thanks to this, sugar will be absorbed more slowly, preventing sharp spikes in blood sugar levels. Fiber, healthy fats, and protein help balance this process. The key is not to completely ban sweets from your diet, but to be more mindful about your food choices. You'll notice the difference. Your legs will feel lighter, and you'll have more energy. Now that you know about the 6 fruits that can affect mobility, I want to share some much more important information with you. I'll explain how to regain your strength, agility, and confidence in movement. It's not just about avoiding what can be harmful. It's much more important to support yourself with what genuinely helps you recover and feel better. Since you're already aware of which fruits can weaken your legs, now is the perfect time to look at what truly benefits the body. How can you structure your diet to regain strength, stability, and confidence while walking? Your feet definitely don't need sugar, but they do need strength. And no miracle supplements and fancy jars can replace that. Strength comes from what you eat every day, starting from the morning. Let's start with the most important thing, protein. As we age, we lose muscle mass faster than we realize, especially in our legs. This process is called sarcopenia. If your diet is low in protein, over time it can lead to weakness, as the body simply can't cope without the necessary building materials. That's why it's important to include quality protein in every meal. For example, in the morning, you could have 1 or 2 eggs. For lunch, add some fish, chicken, or legumes. And as a snack, a handful of nuts or a bit of natural yogurt. Equally important is when you eat. Often, older adults only have a cup of coffee and a cookie for breakfast, and then they wonder why they feel weak and their legs give out on them. In fact, your body needs to recharge from the morning. A good breakfast to support your muscles could be a boiled or fried egg, half an avocado with a pinch of salt, a slice of whole-grain sourdough bread, and a glass of water with lemon and a sprinkle of sea salt. See, it's not complicated at all. The key is to understand what you're eating and why. Lemon is a great source of vitamin C, which is essential for your joints. Eggs and avocados are rich in proteins and healthy fats. Whole grain bread provides energy that is released gradually and lasts a long time. Natural sea salt helps retain water, which is important for keeping muscles strong. There's one more point that is often overlooked. Many elderly people experience fatigue not because they lack strength, but due to dehydration and a deficiency of electrolytes. It's not enough just to drink water. A little natural sodium is also needed to help retain water in the muscles instead of it just passing through. Many people aren't even aware that they are dehydrated. When there isn't enough water in the body, the legs can become weak, start trembling, and feel painful. Try to drink water throughout the day. In the morning, you can add a little lemon juice and a pinch of natural salt to your glass. Try to choose simple, natural foods that haven't undergone extensive processing. Remember, your legs have been helping you move forward for many years, supporting you through various moments in life. Don't overload them with excess sugar or neglect them. Give them what they truly need. When your feet are healthy and strong, it positively impacts your entire life. Now that you know what to avoid and what to include in your diet, there's one more important point. Foot care goes beyond just nutrition. Let's talk about movement and how to improve circulation, helping you feel confident in your own body again. Sometimes it may seem like everything natural is definitely good for you. For instance, if a fruit grew on a tree, it must be healthy, right? But it's not always that simple. Many people believe that if something is natural, it can't be harmful. Maybe that was true when we were younger, and our bodies could handle everything, even when we occasionally overdid it. But as we age, our bodies change. What used to give us energy can now make us feel sluggish. What once went unnoticed now leaves its mark. This doesn't mean there's something wrong with us, or that we've become weak. We've just lived a significant part of our lives, and now our bodies need a different approach. Natural products are still important, but not everything suits everyone at all times, in any quantity, or at any time. So I don't want to criticize any foods, including fruits. I just suggest being more mindful of ourselves, noticing how our bodies react, and understanding that sometimes even familiar things can slightly hinder us from feeling our best. The key is to approach these changes with a sense of calm. It's not about being afraid, but about approaching life with greater awareness. There's no need to give up joy and pleasure. Just choose what truly suits you. Your feet deserve the same attention and care as everything else that matters to you. Try to treat yourself with kindness. When you open the fridge or look into the pantry, do it with a thought of self-care. If you catch yourself eating something that isn't the best choice, don't scold yourself. Just try to make a different choice next time. Every day is an opportunity to take a more confident step. If you choose to nourish yourself with respect, did any fruit from this list surprise you? Were there any among them that once seemed safe to you, but now you see them differently? Share your thoughts in the comments. Which of these fruits do you eat most often? Have you noticed that it causes bloating, heaviness, or fatigue in your legs afterward? This is a place for anyone who wants to take better care of themselves in a calm, fear-free, and guilt-free way. If this video helped you learn something new about your body, share it with someone who might benefit too. A loved one, or someone who also deserves strong legs and confidence in every step. Sometimes small changes in diet can help avoid troubles, restore energy, and improve resilience. If you're interested in learning more about how to maintain true health, what you can feel in your body that affects digestion, mood, and thoughts, stick with us. Here, we speak honestly and openly without fear or restrictions because you deserve information that truly helps. We'll see you in the next video, but in the meantime, do something nice for your feet today. Let them support you for a long time to come because you deserve it.